Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 18, Prithu Maharaj milks the earth planet, text number 17 onwards. Gandharvap saraso adhukshan patre padmamay payaha vatsam vishvavasam kritva gandharvam madhusobhagam. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka made Vishvasu into a calf, and they drew the milk unto a lotus flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. So the Gandharvas and the Apsaras, they also came and they took the sweet musical art and beauty from Mother Earth. So it looks like anybody can get anything from Mother Earth. Depends upon the person who's taking, who's milking, and who's the calf and what's the pot. Vatsin pitro aryamnam kavyam kshiram adukshata amapatre mahabhaga shodhya shraddha devataha. The fortunate inhabitants of Pitri-loka who preside over the funeral ceremonies made Aryama into a calf. With great faith, they milked kavya, food offered to the ancestors, into an unbaked earthen pot. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Pitrin yanti Pitrivrtaha. Those who are interested in family welfare are called Pitrivrtaha. There is a planet called Pitri-loka, and the predominating deity of that planet is called Aryama. He is somewhat of a demigod, and by satisfying him, one can help ghostly family members develop a gross body. Those who are very sinful and attached to their family, house, village, or country do not receive a gross body made of material elements, but remain in a subtle body composed of mind, ego, and intelligence. Those who live in such subtle bodies are called ghosts. So those who are very sinful and attached to their family, house, village, or country do not receive a gross body when they leave this body, but they remain in the subtle body. And this subtle body, the people living in subtle body are called ghosts. This ghostly position is very painful because a ghost has intelligence, mind, and ego and wants to enjoy material life. But because he doesn't have a gross material body, he can only create disturbances for want of material satisfaction. It is the duty of family members, especially the son, to offer oblations to the demigods, Aryama, or to Lord Vishnu. From time immemorial in India, the son of a dead man goes to Gaya and at a Vishnu temple there offers oblations for the benefit of his ghostly father. It is not that everyone's father becomes a ghost, but the oblations of Pinda are offered to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, so that if a family member happens to become a ghost, he will be favored with a gross body. However, if one is habituated to taking the prasad of Lord Vishnu, there is no chance of his becoming a ghost or anything lower than a human being. In Vedic civilization, there is a performance called Shraddha, by which food is offered with faith and devotion. If one offers oblations with faith and devotion, either to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or to his representative in Pitri-loka, Aryama, one's forefathers will attain material bodies to enjoy whatever material enjoyment is due them. In other words, they do not have to become ghosts. So Prabhupada here nicely clarified this question of ghosts and the Shraddh. In fact, Shraddhs are coming up. so, um, so in Shraddh, Prabhupada said, one in India, the son of a dead man goes to Gaya and at a Vishnu temple there, where Vishnu Pad, the lotus feet imprint of Lord Vishnu, are there. So there they offer oblations for the benefit of his ghostly father. But he says it's not that everyone's father becomes a ghost, father or parent in that sense. But the oblations of Pinda are offered so that if a family member happens to become a ghost, he will be favored with the gross body. But at the same time, like Prabhupada explains, if one offers oblations with faith and devotion, either to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu or to his representative in Pitriloka, Aryama, one's forefathers will attain material bodies. So, Prabhupada also says, if one is habituated to taking the prasad of Lord Vishnu, there is no chance of his becoming a ghost. So basically, it's the power of Vishnu prasad. So when we go and do this Pindadan or Shraddh, then the Panda there, he makes 5 pindas out of the flour, wheat flour, and then he makes them loi, and he makes 5 pindas and does all kinds of puja. But ultimately, it's the Vishnu prasad, because he offers bhoga to Lord Vishnu, and then he offers to those pindas. So through the pindas, because the ghost has a subtle body, he needs a gross body to eat something. So through that pinda, he comes and eats Vishnu prasad. And then he goes on, because it's a power. Vishnu prasad is so powerful that that even if somebody has become a ghost, he can come and accept the prasad, and then all his sins are wiped out, and then he can get a gross body to at least continue on with whatever he has to do. So a son has to do that, because the girls, when in Karma Kanda, first we'll talk Karma, girls, they change their gotra. Their gotras change, so the son remains in the same gotra. So the son has a responsibility of performing. But in a Bhagavad Marg, in a devotional service, anybody can offer. At our house, we can offer bhoga to the deities, bhoga to Lord Jagannath, Shaligram Shiva, Gaurnitai, Radha Krishna, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, and offer it to the picture of the forefathers. Or we can just ask, because Lord is very merciful. He's very, very merciful. So if we just ask for all the forefathers who are there, if they have not attained the ghost body, please come accept this prasad. And Krishna can make all the arrangements. Just one has to have that faith and devotion to offer it, to perform this Shraddh. And without faith and devotion, even if we go to Haridwar or Gaya or Paua or wherever it's mentioned, if there is no faith and devotion, no matter where we go, there's nothing will happen. Even in Jagannath Temple, in Jagannath Puri, on the steps, there are so many pandas sitting, and they do the Shraddh also. Main thing is faith and devotion. And the problem is, these days, people are saying this is all superstition. These are all rituals and superstitions. We don't need to do that. Who has seen the ghost? Who has seen the forefathers who have passed away? Especially outside India, nobody does all these Shraddh ceremonies. But there are ghosts. Even Prabhupada said, somebody asked Prabhupada, how many ghosts are there? Prabhupada said, wall to wall, there are so many ghosts all over the world. Because people are so sinful and they are so attached to the family, to the house, to the village, or the country. So many cases of haunted homes, haunted houses. That the ghost is living there because he's attached to that house. He might have been the owner of that house. He was living in that house previously, and he was so attached that even though the body is gone, gross body is gone, he's still hanging around because he doesn't want to leave. So even maybe he didn't even go back with the Yamdutas. Yamdutas must have come to take him back, but he didn't go. So this ghostly body is a hellish life anyway. So that is more hellish punishment. So we should only pray for our forefathers, whoever is stuck. Maybe somebody is. So we can pray to Krishna to please relieve him. And we can offer this prasad during the Shraddha ceremonies. A devotee doesn't even need to wait for Shraddha. He can offer any time. And so please relieve them of this ghostly, hellish body and let them continue on with their next body, whatever is required, whatever is due to them. Of course, Prabhupada says, however, if one is habituated to taking the prasad of Lord Vishnu, there is no chance of his becoming a ghost or anything lower than a human being. Or anything lower than a human being means, by mercy of Prabhupada, the mercy of Krishna, Krishna's prasad, at least we have a chance that we'll take a human birth again next life. There are exceptions, like we'll study about Bharat Maharaj. He had to take the birth of a deer. And about ghost also, there have been instances where a devotee becomes a ghost. But that was not an ordinary ghost. It was Brahm, I don't want to say Rakshas because he's not a Rakshas. Brahmbhut or whatever we want to call it. Because it was a devotee ghost. So in fact, I don't want to scare you all, but it happened in our Bombay temple. So one brahmachari, somehow he ended up committing suicide. And he became a ghost. No, he was attached to Radha Ras Bihari temple. So devotees would feel his presence, sometimes in the class or sometimes in some room in the temple. He wouldn't harm anybody. So and then they had a meeting and then said, now what to do? And but there was a solution because they heard about this Gokarn Maharaj speaking Bhagavatam to Dhundukari, and Dhundukari heard Bhagavatam and then he left. So they asked Radha Govind Maharaj to perform his Bhagavad Saptah. He is very popular for performing Bhagavad Saptah. He speaks very eloquently and very nicely on Bhagavatam, different topics. So he performed 1 week of Bhagavad Saptah. And then after that, nobody even heard of that ghost or got disturbed by that ghost presence. So apparently, he went on to his further journey. So it can happen. So I don't want you to be scared, but it can happen. But this Shraddha ceremony, in fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did go to Gaya, but to perform Shraddha ceremony, but his main idea was to meet Ishwar Puri, Sripad Ishwar Puri, and get initiated. But he did go to Gaya and did the Shraddha ceremony for his father. So it's a bona fide tradition, and one should carry on with the tradition. And now the Shraddhs are coming up, so whenever one's family Shraddh is there, one should continue with that. प्रकल्प्य वत्सं कपिलं सिद्धासङ्कल्पनामयीं सिद्धिं नवसि विद्यां च ये च विद्याधरादयः. After this, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka, as well as the inhabitants of Vidyadharloka, transformed the great sage Kapila into a calf, and making the whole sky into a pot, they milked out specific yogic mystic powers, beginning with Anima. Indeed, the inhabitants of Vidyadharloka acquired the art of flying in the sky. The inhabitants of both Siddhaloka and Vidyadharloka are naturally endowed with mystic yogic powers, by which they not only can fly in outer space without a vehicle, but can also fly from one planet to another simply by exerting their will. Just as fish can swim within water, the residents of Vidyadharloka can swim in the ocean of air. As far as the inhabitants of Siddhaloka are concerned, they are endowed with all mystic powers. The yogis in this planet practice the eightfold yogic mysticism, namely Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, and Samadhi. By regularly practicing the yogic processes one after another, the yogis attain various perfections. They can become smaller than the smallest, heavier than the heaviest, etc. They can even manufacture a planet, get whatever they like, and control whatever man they want. All the residents of Siddhaloka are naturally endowed with these mystic yogic powers. It is certainly a very wonderful thing if we see a person on this planet flying in the sky without a vehicle. But in Vidyadharloka, such flying is as commonplace as birds flying in the sky. Similarly, in Siddhaloka, all the inhabitants are great yogis, perfect in mystic powers. The name of Kapila Muni is significant in this verse because he was the expounder of the Sankhya philosophical system, and his father, Kardama Muni, was a great yogi and mystic. Indeed, Kardama Muni prepared a great airplane which was as large as a small town and had various gardens, palatial buildings, servants, and maidservants. With all this paraphernalia, Kapildev's mother, Devahuti, and his father, Kardama Muni, traveled all over the universes and visited different planets. So the inhabitants of Siddhaloka came and they milked out specific yogic mystic powers, and the inhabitants of Vidyadharloka acquired the art of flying in the sky. So those who really like to fly, they have to really transfer themselves to Vidyadharloka, where they can fly without airplanes. But to transfer to Vidyadharloka, they have to do lots and lots of pious activities. Then they can go there. Or with bhakti also. Bhakti, if we still have this desire that I want to fly in the sky, but I'm performing bhakti. So Krishna can fulfill that desire. Okay, for one lifetime you go to Vidyadharloka, and then let's see if you're still qualified, you can come back to my planet, Golok Vrindavan. So the devotees, they don't care for all these yogic powers. They don't need it. Their only aim is to please Krishna, to serve Krishna. That's it. In the process, if Krishna wants to give some power, if it helps in some service, fine. Otherwise, we don't need it. Just like Hanumanji has this power. He can fly. Or either he flies or he jumps. But his jump is so much, it's as good as flying. But he's always serving Ram. Always. With all his capabilities, he's only serving Ram. Garudji has wonderful flying capabilities, but he's a bird anyway. So, but his flying is only to serve Vishnu. He's always carrying Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna on his back and flying. So if Krishna wants to give us some powers, we will be happy to take it and serve Krishna. If not, we are fine with whatever services, whatever capabilities we have. But regardless, all the powers are there within the earth. If one wants, he can get those. It's hard to understand because we see earth, okay, only for some crops and some buildings. That's it. And minerals and petrol and whatever. But we don't know all these yogic powers are also there. So it's wonderful that earth has so much. Anyacha maino maya mantardhanat bhutatmanam mayam prakalpya vatsamte duduhur dharanam mayim. Others also, the inhabitants of planets known as Kim Purusha Loka, made the demon Maya into a calf, and they milked out mystic powers by which one can disappear immediately from another's vision and appear again in a different form. It is said that the inhabitants of Kim Purusha Loka can perform many wonderful mystic demonstrations. In other words, they can exhibit as many wonderful things as one can imagine. The inhabitants of this planet can do whatever they like or whatever they imagine. Such powers are also mystic powers. The possession of such mystic power is called Ishita. The demons generally learn such mystic powers by the practice of yoga. In the Dasham Skanda, 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a vivid description of how the demons appear before Krishna in various wonderful forms. For instance, Bakasur appeared before Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends as a gigantic crane. While present on this planet, Lord Krishna had to fight with so many demons who could exhibit the wonderful mystic powers of Kim Purusha Loka. Although the inhabitants of Kim Purusha Loka are naturally endowed with such powers, one can attain these powers on this planet by performing different yogic practices. So the inhabitants of Kim Purusha Loka, they made the demon Maya into a calf, and they got this power of appearing and disappearing. So, in fact, if you see all the fights, like Ram and Ravan fight, Krishna killing so many demons, all these demons have these yogic powers. They can appear, disappear at any time. And then, like Indrajit, when he was fighting with Lakshman, he would appear at some place and then he would appear at some other place and this and that. Of course, Vibhishanji helped Lakshman. Lakshman or Balram, he doesn't need anybody's help, but in this pastime, he took the help of Vibhishan to kill Indrajit, and then Ravan also. And Ramji killed Ravan. But they all have so much of mystic powers, so many mystic powers. But their problem is the demons, or they like to use these mystic powers for their own benefit, for their own sense gratification. By these powers, they become so powerful, they want to harass others, they want to win over other kingdoms, and they want to take somebody else's property and try to enjoy it. This is what they do. But this is not the real purpose of yogic powers or mystic powers. Everything and anything and everything should be used in service of Krishna. Because ultimately everything is coming from Krishna. Earth is what? It's an energy of Krishna. And they all are begging Earth to give us this power and that power, and she's giving. Ultimately, it's coming from Krishna. And who can display these powers better than Krishna? his appearance and disappearance. Just like he didn't appear personally when Draupadi was getting disrobed. He was there and he supplied unlimited sari, or he became the sari incarnation. He's here also. Wherever we are chanting Krishna's name, wherever we are discussing Krishna Katha, he's present there. But he's not just visible to us, visible to our material eyes. But he can be present, visible to us also if he wants to. These are all his powers. But he doesn't use these powers for some nonsense purposes. He doesn't have to. But the demons, they have so many powers and they can do wonderful things. Just like Hanumanji, when he went to Lanka to look for Sita, he was looking for her all over. And then he happened to go to the palace of Ravan and he thought maybe Sita ji is here. He was looking at all the rooms of the palace and he was getting impressed by the opulence of Ravan, the beauty of palaces. And then he went to this huge room where Ravan was sleeping with so many queens. And he saw Ravan, what a majestic person he is, how much opulence he has, what kind of strong and stout body he had. But the only problem was he was not a devotee. And Hanumanji was thinking, only if he becomes a devotee, that's all. He can use all his powers, all his opulence in the service of Ram, and then he will be glorified all over. It will be so wonderful if he becomes a devotee. But the demons use so many powers they have. They don't use it in service of Krishna. Yaksha rakshansi bhutani pishacha pishitashana bhutesha vatsa duduhu kapale kshatajasvam. Then the yakshas, rakshas, ghosts and witches who are habituated to eating flesh transformed Lord Shiva's incarnation, Rudra, Bhutanath, into a calf and milked out beverages made of blood and put them in a pot made of skulls. There are some types of living entities in the form of human beings whose living conditions and eatables are most abominable. Generally, they eat flesh and fermented blood, which is mentioned in this verse as Kshatajasvam. The leaders of such degraded men, known as Yakshas, Rakshas, Bhuts, and Pishach, are all in the mode of ignorance. They have been placed under the control of Rudra. Rudra is the incarnation of Lord Shiva and is in charge of mode of ignorance in material nature. Another name of Lord Shiva is Bhutanath, meaning master of ghosts. Rudra was born from between Brahma's eyes when Brahma was very angry at the four Kumaras. So Rudra is in charge, and the Yakshas and Rakshas. So the people, even human beings, whose living conditions and eatables are most abominable, they are all followers of Rudra, actually. And they just like to live in this ignorance, mode of ignorance only. They don't want to get out of it. Tathahayo danda shuka sarpa nagascha takshakam vidhaya vatsam duduhur bilpatre vishampaya. Thereafter cobras and snakes without hoods, large snakes, scorpions, and many other poisonous animals took poison out of planet Earth as a milk and kept this poison in snake holes. They made a calf out of takshak. Within this material world, there are various types of living entities, and the different types of reptiles and scorpions mentioned in this verse are also provided with their sustenance by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The point is that everyone is taking his eatables from the planet Earth. According to one's association with the material qualities, one develops a certain type of character. Paya panam bhujanganam. If one feeds a serpent milk, the snake will simply increase its venom. However, if one supplies milk to a talented sage or saint, the sage will develop finer brain tissues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. Thus, the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops a specific character. So Mother Earth is ready to give whatever we want. It just depends what we want. So the cobras and snakes, they live on poison. Of course, they drink milk, but they give out poison. This is their nature. So they made Takshak as a calf, and they took the poison. Pashvo yavasam kshiram vatsam kritva cha govrisham aranyapatre cha dhukshan mrigendrena cha danshtrinaha kravyadaha pranina kravyam daduhu sve kalevare suparna vatsa vihaga charam chacharam evacha. The four-legged animals, like the cows, made a calf out of the bull who carries Lord Shiva, and made a milking pot out of forest. Thus they got fresh green grasses to eat. Ferocious animals like tigers transformed a lion into a calf, and thus they were able to get flesh for milk. The birds made a calf out of Garuda and took milk from the planet Earth in the form of moving insects and non-moving plants and grasses. There are many carnivorous birds descended from Garuda, the winged carrier of Lord Vishnu. Indeed, there is a particular type of bird that is very fond of eating monkeys. Wow. There's a type of particular bird that is very fond of eating monkeys. Eagles are fond of eating goats, and of course, many birds only eat fruits and berries. Therefore, the words charam, referring to moving animals, and acharam, referring to grasses, fruits, and vegetables, are mentioned in this verse. In fact, in 5th canto, I believe it comes in 5th canto, there's a mention that there are birds. They fly from one planet to another. Not just from one house to another house or one park to another park. One planet to another planet. And they, while flying, they pick up an elephant and they eat the elephant. Huge birds they must be. So there are all kinds of, we don't even know the whole creation, all 8,400,000 species of life. We don't know, we don't see everything here. It's all over the universe. But anyway, they also got their food from Mother Earth. Vatsa vanaspatya prithugra samayam paya giryo him vatsa nana dhatun sasanushu. The trees made a calf out of the banyan tree, and thus they derived milk in the form of many delicious juices. The mountains transformed the Himalayas into a calf, and the milk a variety of minerals into a pot made of peaks of hills. So the trees, they got many juices, and the mountains, they got the minerals. Swarve swa vatsena swe swe patre prithpaya sarakama dudham prithvim daduhu prithubhavitam. The planet Earth supplied everyone his respective food. During the time of King Prithu, the earth was fully under the control of the king. Thus, all the inhabitants of the earth could get their food supply by creating various types of calves and putting the particular type of milk in various parts. This is evidence that the Lord supplies food to everyone. As confirmed in the Vedas, Eko Bahunam Yo Viridhati Kama. Although the Lord is one, He is supplying all necessities to everyone through the medium of the planet Earth. There are different varieties of living entities on different planets, and they all derive their eatables from their planets in different forms. On the basis of these descriptions, how can one assume that there is no living entity on the moon? Every moon is earthly, being composed of the 5 elements. Every planet produces different types of foods according to the needs of its residents. According to Vedic Shastras, it's not true that the moon does not produce food or that no living entity is living there. So this is modern scientists who say we have life only on Earth. Well, life as we see it is only on Earth, but there are living creatures with different bodily compositions all over the universe, depending upon the atmosphere of that planet. Evam pritva daya prithvi mannada swanam atmanah doha vatsadi bhedena kshira bhedam kurudvaha. My dear Vidura, chief of the Kurus, in this way King Prithu and all the others who subsist on food created different types of calves and milked out their respective eatables. Thus they received the various foodstuffs which are symbolized as milk. Tato mahi patihi pritha sarvakam dukam prithu duhit tritvet sakaremam premna duhit trivatsalaha. Thereafter, King Prithu was very satisfied with the planet Earth, for she sufficiently supplied all foods to various living entities. Thus, he developed an affection for the planet Earth, just as if she were his own daughter. So, see, a while ago he was ready to kill her, and put her in so many pieces. But now, because she listened, she supplied to everybody whatever food they wanted, so he developed feelings for her just as if he were his own daughter. Churnyan swadhanushkotya girikutani rajarat bhumandalam idam vanya prayash chakre samam vibhu. After this, the king of all kings, Maharaj Prithu, leveled all rough places on the surface of the globe by breaking up the hills with the strength of his bow. By his grace, the surface of the globe almost became flat. Generally, the mountainous and hilly portions of the earth are made flat by the striking of thunderbolts. Generally, this is the business of King Indra of the heavenly planets. But King Prithu, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not wait for King Indra to break up the hills and mountains, but did so himself by using his strong bow. So with his bow, he could break the mountains and make them flat, so suitable for agriculture. Athasmin Bhagwan Venya Prajanam Prititah Pita Nivasan Kalpayam Chakre Tatra Tatra Yatharataha. To all the citizens of the state, King Prithu was as good as father. Thus he was visibly engaged in giving them proper subsistence and proper employment for subsistence. After leveling the surface of the globe, he earmarked different places for residential quarters, in as much as they were desirable. Gramanpura Patanani Durgani Vividhani Cha Ghoshan Vrajan Sa Shibiran Akaran Ket Kharvatan. In this way, the king founded many types of villages, settlements, and towns, and built forts, residences for cohortsmen, stables for the animals, and places for the royal camps, mining places, agricultural towns, and mountain villages. So he had the full master plan for Earth, and he built all this. Earlier it was all um, without planning, but he made the plans. Who will live where? Pragprithor e navesha purugramadikalpana yatha sukham vasanti sma tatra tatra kuto bhaya. Before the reign of King Prithu, there was no planned arrangement for different cities, villages, pasturing grounds, etc. Everything was scattered, and everyone constructed his residential quarters according to his own convenience. However, King Prithu plans were made for towns and villages. From this statement, it appears that town and city planning is not new, but has been coming down since the time of King Prithu. In India, we can see regular planning methods evident in very old cities. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many descriptions of such ancient cities. Even 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna's capital, Dwarka, was well planned. And similar other cities, Mathura and Hastinapur, now New Delhi, were also well planned. Thus, the planning of cities and towns is not a modern innovation, but was existing in bygone ages. So he was the original town planner or original architect of the planning commission. And Prabhupada says even New Delhi was very well planned, but in 5,000, maybe 100 or 200 years, we have completely messed up the whole plans, looks like. But anyway, everything was there. It's not like some people say, oh, when British came to India, when Muslims came to India, then only civilization came to India. It's nonsense. They should read scriptures and find out the truth. But anyway, glorious histories are given here, and it's not mythology. It's a history that happened, and how King Prithu ruled all over, and how he got everything out of Mother Earth for everybody's sustenance. So there ends chapter 18. So tomorrow we'll start chapter 19. We'll see if anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, two questions I have. First question is on, that you mentioned about ghostly, the parents of someone become ghost, and then that's why people visit Gaya and give offerings to settle down these things in life. So is that ghostly, someone's parent who become, who's met with some accidental death, they become ghost, or because of their wrongdoings, sin activities, they become a ghostly feature, and then and that's how just to calm down whole thing by the kids, they visit Gaya and they offer things to Lord Vishnu's temple and settle down their matter.
So, if somebody meets an accident, sometimes it happens, then the body is not fit to live in. The body becomes so mutilated. So then that soul leaves the body and becomes a ghost because his next body is not ready yet. But at the same time, if somebody meets in such kind of accident, means he was a sinful person. Otherwise, why would he go through such an accident? Accident doesn't happen by accident, by chance. Everything is controlled.
So met with an accident, and there are times when someone gets an electric shock or some accidental death, which he never. Somehow it happens.
We call it accident. Mm-hmm. We call it accidental. Only thing that's not by destiny that one still chooses is suicide. If somebody commits suicide, that's his choice. But then definitely he becomes a ghost because his next body is not ready yet.
Okay. Okay, good. And the second question is on there's so many, I mean, calves and milking, process we heard like in different things like banyan trees that becomes calf and that's milked and then it forms something. So it's a little bit confusing, like because Mother Earth. I mean, this is actually coming. The source is Mother Earth, through whom all these calves were produced, and then for different living entities it has been produced. So a little confusing, Prabhuji. If you just summarize this in a few lines, that what it is actually. Is it for different living entities like animals, human beings? It has these all different through milk. I mean, milk in the form of, like you mentioned, mountain. In mountain, a lot of herbs are there, minerals were there. So it was through that process only, by becoming some calf in that form and then milk that and become minerals and herbs. Very,
See,
very technical.
Prabhupada did mention the milk we can take figuratively. Of course, cow
Hmm.
is going to give milk. So now Mother Earth is giving, like you talked about the banyan tree. So trees made the calf out of banyan tree. Banyan tree because he's the best. So calf has to be the very dear to earth, to the cow, to give lots of milk. Now the banyan tree is a calf. Banyan tree is a person that earth is going to see, and the trees, they wanted what? They wanted many delicious juices. So they got juices from earth. So they derived milk in the form of many delicious juices. So milk is figurative, you can see. From earth, they're getting different juices. All the trees got different juices. And
Okay, so kind of.
yeah, it's figurative. Milk is figurative, cow is figurative, calf is figurative. But the process is there, how to get.
Mm-hmm. So I can say one way, like mango trees, oranges trees, these all have source from banyan tree, which Mother Earth tried to form a calf and milk, and the juices have come to those trees as well.
No, they're
Trying to
not
relate
getting
it.
it from the banyan tree.
No, the banyan tree, because it's so pure, Mother Earth
Yeah,
made it like a calf, and it got
yeah,
milked, and then. Oh, cool.
yeah, yeah.
That's very scientific, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderfully explained.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much,
You're
Prabhuji.
welcome. You're welcome. Any other question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Mata.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Uh, since these Shraddh days are going on, today is third or fourth day of Shraddh. So I have two questions. Like one is, uh, I don't know how to put it. Like मैंने किसी से सुना है कि if just in my case, I was discussing yesterday only कि हमारा कौन करेगा, you know about it. So अब मुझे किसी से पता चला था कि if you go to गया तो वहां पे जाकर के you can do your श्राद्ध अभी भी कर सकते हैं अपना, क्योंकि आपको पता है कि आपका पीछे कोई करने वाला नहीं है, and then you can do it for the next generation also, no? So is it true, like 6 7 जनरेशंस के लिए आप अभी जाकर के कर दो, ताकि अगर आपके पास कोई है या नहीं है तो उनकी जिम्मेदारी खत्म हो जाए, they are not liable to do.
I
Is
haven't
it?
heard like this, but maybe, but I haven't heard. And I never heard like that. मैंने
अच्छा.
नहीं सुना. But in this regard, there's a beautiful story in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm forgetting the name of that devotee. So there was this devotee, and he had the deities, Gopinath. And this Brahman had a family, had a son, small baby boy, and the Brahman used to worship Gopinath ji. very nicely. And one day, so happened, this boy died. And the Brahman was very, very upset, very sad. And he was so sad that he didn't even offer that day puja to Gopinathji. Now, Gopinathji came to his dream. Why? What happened, bhai? I mean, where is my bhoga? I'm hungry. And he said, what you are hungry? I'm sad here. My only son, it was who died. And the Brahman was crying that who will do my shraddh now? So Gopinath said, why you're so worried? I'll do your shraddh. Brahman said, have you ever heard of a deity doing shraddh for his pujari? Gopinath said, no, don't worry. Our relationship is like father and son. So you're like my father, you're feeding me, so I'll do your shraddh. So Brahman said, okay, show me how you'll do. So next day, of course, it was Brahman only who would dress him, but Gopinathji told him to dress me in white clothes that day. So he was dressed in white, and the whole day the ceremonies went on as if he's been doing the shraddh of his father. So from that day, so whenever the Brahman left his body, so that day, they always do the worship of that deity in the way that he's doing shraddh for his father. So that's also there. And moreover, one who is a servant of Jagannath, and you have Shaligram Shila also at home, why you need to worry about
it? ऐसे नहीं पता चलता, लेकिन जब ये दिन आते हैं ना, then that thought comes.
I know.
यार ऐसे ठीक है, पूरा साल निकल जाता है, कुछ नहीं होता, कुछ नहीं, ध्यान भी नहीं आता, लिटरली ध्यान भी नहीं आता, लेकिन जब ये दिन आते हैं ना,
and only in so far I've seen only in Jagannath Puri, maybe other places also they have this custom. In Jagannath Puri, there are days, maybe these are the days, I don't remember the exact time, because their calendar is completely different. They are the days when Jagannathji, he becomes Ram, and they do the Shraddh of Dashrath. Then they become Krishna and the Shraddh of Nanda Maharaj. They are dressed white in white clothes that day. They do the full ceremony as if Jagannathji is doing Shraddh. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like he's a deity there. It's his house. Jagannath Puri is his house. So
Thank you, Prabhuji.
yeah, these are just wonderful places. There do so many ceremonies. So anyway,
अच्छा इसमें
yes, sir.
एक चीज और ऐड करूंगा माता जी के लिए. तो माय मॉम वाज टेलिंग कि उनके पेरेंट्स, लाइक माय मॉम्स पेरेंट एंड माय डैड्स पेरेंट, सो 4 of them, when they are no more, then what they finally do is, because this one generation is not there, तो क्या करते हैं गया में फाइनली, बिकॉज एवरी ईयर, लाइक अभी भी हम कर रहे हैं, मी एंड माय डैड वी गिव दैट एवरी डे जल जो जैसे देते हैं मॉर्निंग में विथ ब्लैक तिल, तो हमारे वो रिचुअल्स हैं, हम विल फॉलो दैट. बट एक बार ही हम अगर विल गो टू गया, वहाँ पे एक प्रॉपर पिंडदान किया, तो आई थिंक नेक्स्ट ईयर ऑनवर्ड्स वी डू नॉट हैव टू डू दीज रिचुअल्स लाइक फॉर 9 days या 8 days का जो होता है, गिविंग इन द मॉर्निंग सम जल विथ ब्लैक तिल, वो करते हैं हम. तो पैती वगैरह पहनते हैं हाथ में, वो चीज़ें आई थिंक दोज आर ओवर आफ्टर दैट. तो बट दैट इज वन, ऐसा दिस इज जस्ट वन ऐसा रूल है कि जस्ट वन जनरेशन व्हेन इट्स नॉट नो मोर, देन ऐसा करते हैं. अगर कोई भी रहेगा देन यू कांट डू इट. ऐसा हमारी तरफ ऐसा होता है. इनफैक्ट आई थिंक कई जगह होता है ऐसा, पीपल दैट्स व्हाई दे गो टू देयर टू फाइनलाइज कि अब एवरी ईयर वाला कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं रहेगा, और वो एक बार पिंडदान देके क्लोज कर देंगे.
हाँ, मैंने वही चीज मैं पूछना चाह रही थी कि आई नो पीपल हु डोंट डू श्राद्ध these days में कुछ भी नहीं करते हैं, वो सिर्फ कि हमारे पेरेंट्स गया में जाके करके आ गए हैं। तो मुझे थोड़ा सा हैरानी लगती थी कि ऐसा कैसे, मतलब
तो
जाने
है
वालों को
मतलब
किया जाता है, जो अभी हैं उनके लिए कैसे आप श्राद्ध कर सकते हो?
नहीं, जो है उनके लिए नहीं किया जाता है। आई हैव नेवर हर्ड ऑफ
हाँ,
दैट।
तो वही ना, तो अभी आई डोंट नो कैसे क्या है, या तो वो अपने लिए करके आ गए हैं कि हमें किसी के लिए कुछ नहीं करना।
ऐसा तो
I don't
आगे
know.
उनके बच्चे भी नहीं करते हैं कुछ, मतलब वो देश है कि मेरे पेरेंट्स ने बोला है कि हमने नहीं करना, तो पता नहीं, दे आर वेटिंग कि उनके पेरेंट्स चले जाएं फिर वो शुरू करेंगे। कंफ्यूजन है बहुत।
वैसे वैसे लोग उधर पहुआ भी जाते हैं कुरुक्षेत्र के पास,
हाँ,
because
पोहा पोए।
after the war, because so many people died, then
हाँ,
Krishna took the Pandavas there to do the Shraddha over there. So many people died in the war.
क्योंकि वहाँ दिया बत्ती के लिए मैंने सुना था जाते, अच्छा श्राद्ध के लिए भी जाते होंगे हो सकता है।
पता नहीं, मैं कभी गया नहीं तो मुझे पता नहीं, मैंने
हाँ,
बस
नहीं,
सुना
हम
है।
लोग यहाँ पे ये होता है कि जिनकी डेथ बेड पे ही हो जाती है ना, लाइक जैसे तो उनका दिया बाती नहीं होता है, तो दे गो टू पोए दिया बाती
Okay.
के लिए। हाँ, अब पता नहीं, अब यही है, और श्राद्ध के लिए भी हो सकता है जाते हैं।
But there is another, I mean, now it's a funny incident, if I can tell. I hope Abhishek Prabhu will edit it from the recording. So there was this husband, wife, two sons, and the sons did not believe in all these rituals. So the husband died.